Members of the public and press are permitted to report on proceedings. Reporting includes filming, photography, making an audio recording and providing commentary on proceedings. Please note that this meeting is recorded and streamed live. These recordings are published on the relevant meeting page of the Council's website. By choosing to attend this public meeting, you are deemed to have given your consent to being filmed or recorded and for any footage to be broadcast or published. If the alarm sounds, the premises must be evacuated immediately. Do not spend time collecting personal belongings. All emergency escape routes are clearly signed. Once you've left the building, the assembly point is in the High Street opposite the Guildhall. Members and other speakers are reminded to use their microphone when speaking. Thank you very much, everybody. Right. Margaret. Owen, excellent. Thank you. We've only just started. Any appointments of substitutes, Margaret?
Yes, Chair. We have Councillor Lawrence for Councillor Alcott. Thank you. And we also have apologies from Councillor Amos.
Thank you very much. Any declarations of interest? No? Excellent. So if we go through the minutes of the previous meeting, rather than go through page by page, does anyone have any specific comments? There's far too much joviality at the other end of this table. Okay. Well, anyway, I'll accept no comments on those minutes and sign them as a true reflection. Thank you. And then minutes of the previous conservation panel. Any comments? No? Excellent. Thank you very much. So in which case, we'll move on to, we've done no site visits today, so therefore we will move on to public participation, Margaret.
None, Chair.
And public representation?
None. Thank you.
So we're a minute in and I'm on agenda item 8. This must be a record. We're on an application for Pitmarston House, and I believe, Laura, you're leading on that. Over to you. While I get to my phone and try and find out why all my Labour colleagues are laughing.
Okay, this application is for the proposed change of use of Pitmarston House into a C1 hotel and guest house use. In terms of the breakdown, the proposed hotel has 7 bedrooms, including 4 bedrooms on the first floor and 3 bedrooms on the second floor. Pitmarston House is a Grade 2 listed building, and as you can see from the submitted location plan, is located along Malvern Road, which is within the Bedwardine ward of Worcester. The surrounding area is well-established residential area. Pitmarston Primary School is located to the rear, to the east of Pitmarston House, and Pitmarston Park is located to the southern elevation. Following next slides just show some photographs taken at previous site visits and submitted with the application. As you can see, this is the entrance to the access road off Malvern Road, with Pitmarston House and Pitmarston Primary School signage on the entrance gates. Now looking the opposite way on the other side of the gates towards number 96 Malvern
Laura,
Road.
do apologise. Councillor Bissett has raised her hand. I think she's got a question.
I'm struggling to hear you. Sorry.
Thank you, Marjorie. No problem.
Yes, so this is just looking the other way, or the opposite of the gates, to number 96 Malvern Road, which is the white rendered property in the background. And now this is just showing the access road leading to Pitmarston House, shared with Pitmarston Primary School, with the blue gates adjacent. And again, just a close-up view of the entrance to the primary school with Pitmarston House accessed around the left. Now looking at the frontage of Pitmarston House. And again, just a further photograph of the frontage, just looking from a different perspective. Now again, this is just looking towards the entrance of the site with the gated parking area beyond the gates there. Now it's just looking towards back to the frontage, the large block paved area to the frontage of Pitmarston House with its boundary hedging and mature trees. Now just looking towards sort of the rear side of the building with a spiral staircase to the rear. This is a further view to the rear of the house with the existing outdoor entertainment area. It's useful for members to note that planning permission and listed building consent have been previously approved for the erection of an indoor swimming pool to be sited within the area of this outdoor existing entertainment area. Next slides just show some internal photographs that the agent has confirmed that they're happy for us to use, just to give members an idea of the interior. As you can see, this is the ground floor with the dining area and kitchen. And another one, just another view across the kitchen. And now just a ground floor lounge room. Now looking across the other side of the room with an existing mezzanine floor. Now moving up to the second floor with a stairway. This is one of the, probably the largest bedroom with, obviously, as you can see, a bath there and large windows, and an ensuite to this room. Now another bedroom here on the same floor with, more large windows. Now moving just onto the existing block plan, showing the car parking arrangements for Pitmaston House and the apartments that are inside of the building. Now looking at the proposed block plan, the proposals only seek to change the use of some of the part of the building into a hotel use, as there are some existing apartments within the building that are to remain. As you can see on the block plan, the red line just indicates the breakdown between the proposed hotel and the existing apartments, with obviously the hotel on the right and the apartment amenity area and parking on the other side. There are 12 parking spaces proposed for the hotel part of the building, and a total of 7 spaces retained for the apartments within the building. A condition has also been recommended for accessible and electric vehicle and cycle parking in line with highways parking standards. As we've seen from the photographs, the previously consented swimming pool has not yet been implemented. Whilst the swimming pool doesn't form part of this application itself, it's whoever's just shown on the proposed plan there. Now looking at the proposed ground floor plans, no changes here to the building itself other than the reuse of the rooms to include a staff room, lounge and reception for the use as a hotel. If you can see on the right there, just that hashed out area, that just shows the area of where the existing apartments are, that's to be kept the same to remain. Now looking at the first floor plans, as you can see, there's 4 bedrooms here with en suites and a bathroom in the centre. And looking at the second floor plans, it's just showing 3 more bedrooms here with en suites and a bathroom in the centre again. A number of objections have been raised in relation to the potential for noise disturbance as a result of the change of use. We've therefore produced this slide to provide just some further clarification to members on the distances between Pitmaston House itself and other neighbouring properties to the north on Winchester Avenue and to the east along Malvern Road. The proposals do introduce some public benefits, including the creation of jobs within the hotel. The agent has advised that it is estimated that the hotel would create 7 to 8 part-time jobs, including the cleaners, groundspeople, a general manager, catering and night staff. The listed building is a significant heritage asset, and therefore local authorities must have special regard to preserving and enhancing the character and appearance of heritage assets. The company report covers all the relevant issues and is taken as read. Members will also note the late paper that was circulated in respect of this item. These specifically relate to revisions in the plans list as recommendation following the withdrawal of the application for listed building consent. The key sort of determining issues for member to consider are the impact on heritage assets, parking, highway safety, noise, and the impact that this may have on neighbouring amenity. So, for the reasons set out in section 7 of this report, officers have concluded that on balance, subject to the recommended conditions, the proposals are acceptable in terms of the impact on heritage assets and the impact on neighbouring residents. It's therefore considered that proposals are generally in accordance with the relevant policies within the SWDP and the aims and objectives of the NPPF.
Laura, thank you very much for that comprehensive presentation. I must apologise to those people who are watching on YouTube. Unfortunately, that presentation pack, I understand, didn't flick on for you, but we are going to upload it so you can see it as soon as it's uploaded. So my apologies. We also had the late paper. I know we made reference to it from Councillor Alan Amos, which I know has been passed around. So everyone's had a chance to read his comments as the local councillor. And of course, he's unfortunately not at planning committee today. With that background, I open the debate on this application. Anyone wishing to speak? I've got Marjorie, and then I've got Karen.
Thank you, Chair. I gather that the application for the listed building has been withdrawn, but I thought that the two applications had to be together and put forward together. Could you explain that to me, please?
Yeah, Paul, if you could, please.
Yeah, I'm quite happy to explain that. In terms of the listed building application, the listed building consent is only required for alterations to the listed building. As Laura presented, there are no alterations proposed. It's purely just a change of use. So whilst officers are looking back on the history to make sure that any changes have got listed building consent, for the purpose of today's committee, we're purely looking at the use of the building for a hotel, and therefore the listed building consent is not required at this moment in time.
Thank you, officers. Karen.
Thank you, Chair. My question is the access road, because it's obviously shared with the school. So will there be restrictions for deliveries for the hotel to avoid times when pupils are arriving at school?
We're all diving to the to those at the bottom of the thing. Give us 2 seconds.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, there is some restrictions in condition 7 recommended. So this is deliveries and collections from the development shall not be made outside of the following hours, 9 AM to 5 PM, Monday to Saturday.
So outside from,
Those are the only hours that they can.
that's the only hours they're allowed to. I mean, the only thing is I know that schools get lunchtime staff and they also have part-time staff. So it's tricky, isn't it, knowing what's right for the school?
Karen, I think we're getting some clarification. My understanding is that the access you talk about, which I know the one you're on about, isn't apparently the main school access.
Right, so how is it used by the school?
I understand teachers might use that access, but I've been informed that it isn't the main school access, and I'm looking to officers now to correct me if I'm wrong. No pupils, sorry, no pupils use that access. Okay. I mean, we don't unfortunately have the local councillor. Well, no pupils are supposed to use that access, I think. That
Right.
we have to always lay a layer of reality over things. I agree with you, yeah. But yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
If it's helpful, we could delegate authority to approve to the chair and vice chair through to the corporate director, just to double check whether condition 7 is accurate in terms of the use of that access point. And if it is to be used as one of the main access points to the school, we could exclude the hours where drop-off occurs, say between 2:30 and 3:30 or 2:30 and 4, whatever suits. But if that is a real issue for members, we certainly can do that as an alteration to the recommendation if needed.
I'm seeing sage nods around the table, so thank you. We'll accept that as a condition. I've got Owen, Jill, and then I've got yourself. So, apologies, Jill. I've got Owen, I've got Pat, and then I've got yourself, Jill.
Thanks, Chair. It's a question for officers, and it's regarding something that was raised by Councillor Amos about the hours of use of the terrace and of the pool. Now, I would imagine if somebody went to this hotel with, I don't know, with their partner or whatever, the hours of use of the terrace and the pool are not really that big a deal if you're just there with your wife or your husband or whatever. I get the impression that people are concerned somebody's going to rent out the entire hotel and there's going to be a party. And that's why there's concern over these hours of use of the terrace and the pool. So can the officers clarify to me whether this hotel will be a hotel that lets rooms, or could I literally rock up with 20 mates and book the hotel? Because I think that's what residents are concerned about.
Through you, Chair.
Yeah, please, Paul.
We understand residents' concerns, and this has been concerns that have been expressed, as I understand it, over the last sort of 5 years, that have actually been real concerns over this use of the site. What is proposed is a hotel. There is going to be staff presence 24/7, so it's not just the rental of a property, it is a hotel. Now, whether you can rent all the rooms, we can't preclude that, but certainly in terms of the conditions that have been imposed or recommended to be imposed, they would restrict those hours, and it would be restricted in that way. And the company would have to have that management plan, which we have mentioned in condition.
It's condition
10,
11.
10 and 10, 11 and 12, all of those things would need to be part of that management plan and would need to be adhered to. So we are comfortable as officers that it is a different beast to what was been before, and we are comfortable that it's an appropriate use that can be monitored and investigated if need be.
Yeah, Owen, Owen, I do note yours and the concerns that Councillor Amos has raised, and I think that what we can take from this is there will be management on the premises, and just like any hotel that you stay at, if the bar shuts at 12, the bar shuts at 12, or if you're not allowed in the outdoor pool at 12, then someone comes and tells you, whereas previously there would have been no management facility there. So they have to write that management plan, and therefore if they don't live up to it, that's when we will be able to enforce it. And of course there will be a licence on the hotel which is at risk if they're not living up to their rules. So I hope that will give people some reassurances. I've now got I've now got Jill, and then I've got Karen. I do apologise, Vice Chair. I've got Pat, I've then got Jill, and then I've got Karen.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, there are very valid concerns about noise and nuisance, and the police have been involved, so I do understand and empathise with neighbours very much. But today, we're not judging the person or the owner of this building. What we're judging is the application itself. And we have facts here in front of us. I'm very happy to see the management plan, particularly the 24-hour manager on site, and the restrictions on hours of use of the swimming pool and outside areas. With regard, as you mentioned, Chair, to the licence, I mean, licences can be withdrawn very quickly if there is a nuisance. So they'll need to comply with the conditions of the licence. But that isn't, of course, a planning matter. That's for the licensing committee. Moving really to the neighbours' comments, quite a lot of them don't really apply to planning decisions. What do apply are the various restrictions. I think one of them, the idea that there might be arrivals 24 hours a day, is a bit of a concern, but I think that could be addressed in the management plan anyway, couldn't it? I don't think that's a problem. I do think that the blue plaque ought to be respected, and can we condition that? Because it is a listed building after all, and although we're not looking at the listed building consent today, I mean, it's just part of the building, the blue plaque, so perhaps we could ask them to retain it and maintain it. As for the noise and nuisance possibilities, they will be restricted clearly by the management plan. And one of the things that the government rules say is that we actually have to rely on officers to do their work. We can't just say, oh, it's going to happen again. If it does happen, we must assume that the officers will do their jobs. So that's not really a consideration for the application. I think the management plan for me just about tips the balance in favour. but it is a fine balance, and I do hope very much that the owners take notice of what's been said by neighbours and by this committee, because they're on probation, basically. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. I've now got Jill, and then I've got Karen Lawrence.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just reading Councillor Amos's note and seeing about the checkered history. And is it right to say then that at the moment it's an unapproved Airbnb establishment? So currently, without management on site, that sort of thing?
The history of the building is that it has been used as a Sleeps 12 type building, booked out by Airbnb, and it was unlicensed at the time, is my memory. I know this because at the last time it came, I had to declare that actually I stayed there with my family without even realising.
Is it nice?
It's very nice.
Yeah.
I actually stayed in one of those bedrooms that was on the TV, but I can assure you we made no noise either. It was a 60th birthday, but yeah. So we're trying to regulate this now, or this will be a regulatory regulation of what has been a building operating without a licence.
Would it continue to be an Airbnb though? No, definitely a hotel. Okay, fine. In which case, would it be fair to say that the noise situation that's been endured, as expressed here, would actually probably improve?
One would hope that with the management, that's one thing, but two, the sort of people that are going to book a 6-bedroom hotel are slightly different from the sort of people who are going to book a Sleeps 12 Airbnb, stag night, hen night. Now that's, you can't guarantee that, but I think if I was a stag and I was looking for a 12 place so the stag party could have a good night out, I probably would look somewhere else which is a little bit less regulated than have somewhere where it's got a bar, etc., that you know you can't use the terrace after 10 o'clock, because that's probably not what you're after. That's just me, but I think human behaviour would lead people away, and this hopefully will become a lovely boutique hotel for the city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Karen.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, my question is about what you just said, actually. Well, one part. So in point 11, it says the outside terrace area in the indoor swimming pool can't be used after 8 o'clock in the evening. Now, I think 8 in the evening, you know, if it's a nice sunny evening, people will want to sit out on that terrace and quietly and disciplined, you know, providing they're being controlled by hotel staff and they're not being rowdy. Who wouldn't want to sit out till, say, 10, 11 o'clock at night? Could we separate that out? Is there any reason those two are in together? I can see that you would want to stop a swimming pool and lots of shouting and jeering in the pool, but again, I don't think the management are going to run it as this sort of place, or we'd like to think that they wouldn't, and they're being watched to see if they are. So I would think that's possibly worth splitting out so that they can have 2 different times, so people can sit out but quietly, if you see what I mean. And then the other one is no live music at all. If you look at the sort of house it is, I can see that somebody might wish to have some sedate classical music playing and live musicians. I think you'd need to sort of, you know, perhaps instead of no live music at all, that they've got to apply. But I think no live music at all. When you could have chamber music, somebody might want to have a small discreet wedding there. You know, that seems, no live music seems very strict. And perhaps that is there some way of it being licensed for an event? Thank you.
Paul.
Thank you for your questions. I think in terms of the response, it picks up something that the Chair said earlier. I think the applicants, certainly the agent, have been very cognizant of what this committee has said previously and what neighbours have said. And they are happy with those conditions that have been put forward. They have not just been put forward by officers, they have been put forward in discussions with the applicant and his agent. So it is a starting point. Now, it may be that in 12 months' time, after operating it, they find that actually they'd like to vary those conditions, and that would be a matter for them to come back to this committee to be able to consider those. But I think as a starting point, it is a really useful point that the agent has agreed those conditions and that starter, that if the swimming pool is erected and the terrace is there, the 8 o'clock is the end. That's the type of establishment they are looking at operating. And if that causes them any difficulty, that they will be able to come back. In terms of live music, the difficulty we have in terms of framing conditions is we can't frame a condition that says live music that is sedate and classical and no rock music. So that is the difficulty that we have. It's either music, live music, or no live music. We're not saying that they can't have recorded music. So the point is that this is a starting point. If they want to look at something else, we will then look at that again. But I think this is a good starting point based on the previous history and the response to from the applicant and the agent.
What I was thinking was perhaps they could apply to have the music, and then it's agreed that they're going to do it.
Thank you, Paul. I've got Owen, and then I've got Andy.
This one, it might be a little bit trivial, but we were talking about a swimming pool that's internal. But this is what I'm confused about, because that site is an outside site. So will the pool be in a building, or will it be attached? Is it like an annex? Because the site we saw for this inside swimming pool is outside. That's what I'm asking.
Yes, essentially it'd be a new building, so it's a swimming pool building. So yes, there will be a connecting terrace part, but it won't be, so to get to the swimming pool, you'll still need to go outside into the swimming pool, do your swimming, and then you'll come back into the room. But the restrictions will restrict the outside area as well as the swimming pool. Yeah. Yeah.
Andy.
Thank you, Chair. Like Karen, I was a bit bemused at the thought of this place being busted because they had a string quartet or something. But thanks very much, Paul, for explaining that. I attended the Mayor's lecture last night, excellent lecture, about repurposing buildings and making them sustainable through a new purpose. And I think this is what this is trying to do, because we don't want the building to die. It's just too important. But I do know that Alan Amos has worked extremely hard on battling off inappropriate applications. And I note from his email today that he's not speaking against the application. He's speaking about the very things that have been voiced here, concerns about the conditions. And I think the conditions look pretty good to me. It's their implementation, which is outside our remit, but those are important. So I reckon we're getting to something that personally I think can be agreed. And it's important that the building lives. The building's important, but John Williams, who was the occupant, is important. Chair, as an aficionado of history, you'll know that the Pitmarston pineapple, which was an apple, was a cultivar that came from here. And I believe when there was a virus that took out strawberries in the USA, the new virus-resistant cultivars also came from this place. So it's not unimportant. This sustains the use of that building in what I think is an appropriate use. And so if we've reached that point, I would propose the officer's recommendations with the conditions as put.
Sorry, I've got a second. I've still got Jenny, who'd like to speak.
Thank you. Is there any reason it didn't go to the Conservation Advisory Panel?
For those of you who are watching in, we're just checking.
In terms of this full application, because it was the change of use, there was no alterations to the listed building. That's the only reason I can think of why it didn't go to the Conservation Area Panel, because there was no proposed changes to the building, but we haven't got any comments from them. I don't know. It's a simple answer.
Thank you. It's normally you'd say no comment or content or whatever. The other thing is that I noticed that the 6 flats are not going to be affected in any way. So nobody's going to lose their home over this new situation, which is great. Compared to what was there before, where it was unregulated and a complete nuisance to the neighbourhood as an Airbnb and various other things, this has got to be a vast improvement if the rules are kept. So as long as we can make sure that we keep our eye on it for a little while to make sure it is run as promised, then I can't see a real reason why not to allow it.
Thank you, Jenny. And thank you all for your comments and observations. I don't think I've got anyone else wishing to speak. And we've had a proposer in Andy and a seconder in Pat. And just to clarify that proposal recommendation, it was including the delegation of powers to chair and vice chair on condition 7, and also to look at the blue plaque status. So I'm getting good at this. So to which case, if we go to a vote, those in favour of the recommendation? Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Well, we don't know I'm going yet, Pat, although I haven't had a call from the 1922 Commission to say they're looking for a new Prime Minister. I'm not sure I'd want the job. In which case, I do not believe we have any other applications today, but we do have any other business. Oh, sorry, I apologise. My computer's turned off. We do have the report of performance, don't we? Yeah, please do, Paul.
Thank you, members. So this is a very short report, as you'll notice, on the annual review of planning decisions, which I understand this committee was used to operating pre-COVID and has been paused since then. We want to bring that back because as both the section 13 of the Constitution and the Planning and Advisory Service say that it's a really good thing for members to get out and about and see physical development that has been approved and learn lessons from that. So this really is just teeing that up. You'll notice in section 3 that officers have suggested 4 sites, potential sites to be visited. What we're asking for is some additional suggestions from members so that we get some indication of what things you might want to look at in your particular wards or that you've seen around the city. Don't feel pressure that you've got to be able to provide it today and stick your hand up now, but if you can let me know by the end of next week, that would be really helpful. And then in conjunction with the chair and vice chair, we'll arrive at a list of suitable sites in a suitable traversing around the city, and that is a date to be agreed.
Thank you, Paul. I do believe we looked in first week in December. Margaret, was it?
Yes, Chair, we looked at the 8th of December.
8th of December.
10 o'clock.
At 10 o'clock in the morning. And the idea was that it's not on a planning committee day, so it is extra time, I accept that, but these things are, I've done it a couple of times before and some new members may not have had an opportunity. It is actually quite interesting going to look at something you approved a planning application for maybe 2 or 3 years ago and then going to see it in its built form. I know Pat and I talked about it at the planning briefing. We went to see a care home that had been built on the back of Foregate Street and it's fantastic. So it's quite good. You get to see, you know, what you've signed up for and whether they're delivering against what we said we wanted, which is quite useful. I have said, and I look to members whether they're interested in that, it's probably going to take 3 or 4 hours, I would have thought. If people are interested in doing it afterwards, then we could all go for a planning committee drink, coffee, orange juice, whatever you want, in Cafe Cadena, or there are other establishments available. In case I need to pick that because it's walking distance from the Guildhall. But members, just have a think about it and see if you're interested in doing that or not. I am offering to buy the first round as well. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the first and the second. Yeah, no. But please, have a look in your wards if there's something that has been contentious or you're seeing being built and or has been built and you think, I'm not sure really that's what we wanted, then that gives us an opportunity to go and have a look at them. Or not just your ward, across the city. Thanks, officers. Now we go on to any other business. Any other business? Excellent. It's not the fastest ever, is it, Margaret? But it's got to be close. Got to be close. So everyone enjoy your free afternoon. I know Karen Hanchett has told me that she's booked 3 hours parking. So apparently that gives her a load of time to go shopping, to get a value for money. So no, thanks very much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the day. Thanks very much, officers.